All right, so let's get started on our review for tomorrow. So the 5 numbers summary represents or is the minimum, the median, the maximum, Q1, Q3, and then bonus is the IQR. So these are the major 5 in order to create a box plot. The IQR represents the box in box plot. Next up, we have how do you make a histogram. So first thing you're going to do is group your data into bins. Then you're going to create your histogram that looks like a bar graph. Okay? All right, so on the box plot below, we are going to label the 5-number summary on the bottom. And then we're going to put the percents on top. Then the percents that each part represents, so minimum represents 0%, Q1 represents 25%, the median represents 50%, Q3 represents 75%, and the maximum is 100%. And then also each little, what did I call them? Like boxes or groups is 25%. Right, each of the blocks is 25%. Okay, so altogether, each little section here represents 25%, which altogether makes 100. This is going to be important. I'm going to tell you right now. All right, so remember before we get started, we'll figure out max, and minimum, median, and then our quartiles and IQR. So first we got to put our numbers in order. And I'm going to just do that really fast here because I don't want to keep this video to be super duper long. All right, so I put these numbers in order. And my minimum in this one is going to be 11. My maximum is going to be a 49. Then I have to figure out my median. So I know I have 10 numbers here, which means I'm going to use 2 middles. And my 2 middles in this case, let me pick a color. This is my middle. How do I know? Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the left side, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the right side. So with those 2 middles, I'm going to add them together and then chop it in half, which gives me 31. Then I have to figure out Q1. So when I figure out Q1, remember, if you got 2 middles, you include what you use to help you figure out your median. So I have 5 numbers here. 27's in the middle of those 5 numbers, so that is my Q1. Then I look at these 5 numbers on the on the right, and I got to include the 31 that helped me with my median. And there should be 5 numbers here as well. 33 is the middle of those 5 numbers. So Q3 is 33. IQR is going to be our Q3 minus our Q1. So it's 33 minus 27, which gives us a big old 6. Now I'm going to draw out my data, and I'll try to keep it with the same colors. So my minimum was an 11. Then we have blue for Q1, which was 27. Then we had, this red color for median, which was 31. Then we have 33 in pink for our Q3, which is right here. And then our maximum in purple was 49. And then we have to draw the box of our box plot, which goes through the blue to the pink, okay? Right, because remember, the blue to the pink represents like the IQR. Then we have to connect our maximum and our minimums to that box so that we make some whiskers. So there's our box plot. Here's the next one. I'm going to put the data in order really quick. All right, so here's our data in order. There's 12 numbers, so we know we're going to use 2 middles. All right, so let's get this started. Our minimum here is 15. That's the smallest number. Our biggest number in this one is 45, so that's our max. Median is next, so we have to figure out there are 12 numbers, so we're going to use two middles. So I gotta figure out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my middle is gonna happen here somewhere between 27 and 30. So I'm gonna add those two numbers up, which gives us 57. Chop it by 2 because there were two numbers here, remember? And that gives me 28.5. Oh my God, Miss Raw Wolf, it's a decimal. That's okay. That's okay. Then I have to figure out my Q1. And Q1 here is going to use these 6 numbers, including what we used to help us figure out our middle, because we didn't have exactly 1. We had to use 2. So 6 numbers here, which means it's even. So we're going to have 2 Q1s we're going to use. So we got 23 plus 25, which gives us 48. Chop that in half. That gives us 24. You can also think about it that between 23 and 25, right in the middle of that is a 24. That works too. But I like to do the math because just in case. All right. Next up, we got us these 6 numbers to help us with our Q3. And again, we use that 30 next to that yellow line to help us find our median, but it is not the median. We just used it. We got 6 numbers, so we gotta use 2 middles. In this case, it's 30 and 30. So I'm gonna add those 2 together, gives me 60, and then we cut it in half because we added 2 numbers. Should give us 30 again. Is it always gonna be that nice and green? No. Is it nice when it does? Yes. All right, next up we have our IQR, which is going to take our Q3 minus our Q1, so 30 minus 24, which gives us 6 again. All right, so now we're going to start drawing our histogram. So we start with our minimum, which was at 15. Then we have our Q1, which was at 24. Read your number line carefully. Then we have our median, which is 28.5. So that is going to be in between 28 and 29, okay? Not on it, in between it. I told my Math 1 students that if you have a 0.5 and you draw it on exactly 28 or on exactly 29, I will take a point off. Know that it is in between. Then we have our Q3, which is at 30, and then we have our maximum here at 45. Then we have to draw our box, which represents our IQR, so it goes from Q1 to Q3. And then we have to draw our whiskers, which means we connect our maximum and minimum to the box. Very good. All right, next up we have histograms, which are always fun. So histograms, I already got the bin set up for you. So we go from 10 to 19, and we got 1 number. And that looks like that's it. So that's a frequency of 1. Then we have 20 to 29. So we got 27, 25, 28. That's 3 numbers. Then we have next up is 30 to 39. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then last but certainly not least is this only 49 left. Oh my gosh. And since there's 1 number, there's a frequency of 1. My goodness, Miss Raw Wolf. So draw our histogram. So between 10 and 19, we got 1. So that's this first part of the histogram. Our second bar for our histogram goes up to 3. Oh, can you hear that truck? And I'm coloring that in. And please color it in on your quizzes because Miss Raw Wolf is kind of blind when it comes to pencils on paper. Then we have 5 for our next histogram piece, and then our last histogram piece goes only up to 1. So here's the histogram for this set of data. Next set of data, so again, we're going to start with 10 to 19. So here's 1, 2, and that's it. Then we have 20 to 29, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. That was easy, they were all next to each other. Then we have 30 to 39, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoa. And then last piece of data, is 40 to 49, which there's one of those. So we're going to draw our histogram. So between 10 and 19, there were 2. Between 20 and 29, there were 4.
All right.
Between 30 and 39, there were 5. Was that just like last time? I don't even know. And then the last one, we had just 1. Now again, I just want to reiterate this. That pink histogram represents the numbers between 10 and 19. It does not include the 20 here, okay? That's the problem with histograms. That's why people can kind of struggle with these sometimes. This next one here is 20 to 29, okay? It does not include 30, all right? And so on and so forth. Next up, we're going to answer questions about the box plot. So I want you to identify the minimum all the way to the IQR. So the minimum in this one is 7. Then we have Q1, which here is 9. Then we have our median, which in this case is a 12. Then we have our Q3, which is 15. Bell's about to ring. And then our maximum is 18, which leaves us with our IQR. So that's going to be, again, Q3 minus Q1, which is 15 minus 9, which, hey, look at the 6. Look at all these IQRs with the 6. All right. Next one, thinking ones. What percent of hair salons have 9 or less stylists? Well, here's 9, and it's saying 9 or less. So this chunk, that's what I called them. Chunk is only worth 25%. I'll write that in highlighters. So we have 25%. Next percent is talking about what percent of hair salons have 15 or more stylists. Well, here's my 15, and it says 15 or more. So that includes this chunk. This chunk is only worth 25%. Next question asks us, what percent of hair salons have 12 or more stylists? Well, here's 12. 12 or more includes these 2 chunks, and these 2 chunks added together doesn't give us 25%. Miss Rawolf, come on now. It gives us 50%. What percent of hair salons have 12 or less stylists? Well, again, here's 12. 12 or less gives us 2 chunks, which is worth 50%. Next up, we have what percent of hair salons have 18 or less? Let me get rid of all these highlighters here. 18 or less is going to be, well, here's 18. 18 or less includes the entire box plot, and the entire box plot altogether is 100%. All right, next problem here, we have number of touchdowns thrown by each quarterback. So we're going to identify the minimum, the maximum, the median, Q1, Q3, and IQR. So our minimum here looks to be 3. Then we have our Q1, which looks to be 7. Our median looks to be a 10. No decimal ones here. Man, no tricksters. Q1 here, I'm sorry, this is Q3, is a 13. Our maximum in this case is 18. So now we have to figure out our IQR, which again, remember, is Q3 minus Q1. So 13 minus 7. Oh, look, a 6 again. What is this? All right. Please remember that IQRs cannot be negatives. It has to be Q3 minus Q1. All right, highlighter time. So 25% of quarterbacks threw fewer than what number of touchdowns? Okay, so fewer means we're going to start on the left. So we're going to highlight the first 25%, which is right here. What number is this all less than, Miss Rawolf? Well, it looks to be less than 7. So 7 is our answer. It's like the reverse questions of the first one, right? So 9 or less gave us a percent. This one's like asking what's the bottom 25%. All right, next up we got us 25% of quarterbacks threw more than what number of touchdowns. So this means we're going to start on the right and only go to 25%. So starting on the right, highlight the first 25% we see. So it reaches or ends here at 13. So 25% of quarterbacks threw 13 or more touchdowns. All right, let me erase these two highlights so that we can go to the next questions. So the next questions ask us 75% of quarterbacks threw fewer than what? So this means we're going to start on the left and highlight 75%. So we're going to highlight 3 chunks. So we got our first chunk is 25, our next chunk makes 50, and our chunk after that makes 75. And look at that. It also is 13, right? Because that means 75% of quarterbacks threw fewer than 13 touchdowns. All right, next up we have 75% of quarterbacks threw more than. So we're going to start on the right. Starting on the right, we're going to count to 75%. First chunk here is 25. Next chunk is 50. The chunk after that adds up to 75. And look at that. That gives us a 7. All right. I'm going to erase these two highlights for the last question here. Last question is asking us what percent of quarterbacks threw 3 or more chunks. All right, so starting at 3 or more. So I'm going to go all the way until I hit the end here. Well, I highlighted the whole box plot, so the percent for that is 100. Look at that. Easy peasy mac and cheesy. All right, we got 2 more questions left. So now we're going to read histograms. All right, so let me start with some colors here. So how many pumpkins total were weighed in Leonard's patch? If you see this, that means you're counting all of them. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So we got 25 pumpkins were weighed. These types of questions are tricky because they don't give you like specific details like the other questions do. So if it's asking the total amount, that's asking for how many in the entire histogram. Okay, next up we have how many more pumpkins weighed 9 to 6 kilograms than 12 to 15. Well, here is 9 to 6, and then here's 12 to 15. So 12 to 15 had 2, 9 to 6 had 8, so this means there was 6 more. Next one, how many pumpkins weighed between 0 and 6? So between 0 and 6. So that's this section. So we had 4 and 5. So that's 4 plus 5 gives us 9. All right. Then we have us, how many more pumpkins weighed 6 to 9 than 9 to 12? All right, 6 to 9 is right here. 9 to 12 is right here. So 9 to 12 is 6. 6 to 9 is 8. So that was 2 more. We already knew 6 to 9 from earlier. Ooh, this is a good question. Which bins have more than 5 pumpkins? So I'm going to look at the 5 on my number of pumpkins, and I'm going to just kind of do this. So which bins have more than that? Well, it looks like 6 to 9 has more than that, and 9 to 12. I know this wasn't on your notes, but it's a really good thinking question. I love them. I love thinking. All right. Next, we have sizes of each house on Prince Street. So how many houses, this is supposed to say more, are 100 to 150 from 200 to 250. All right, so 100 to 150 is this section, which is 7. 200 to 250 is this section, which is 4. So it's 3 more. Then we have how many houses are there from 0 to 550? No, to 0 to 50. And that's gonna be a 0. Next up, we have how many houses are 100 to 200 millimeters squared? Not millimeters. That would be very little. So that's going to be these numbers here. So we have 7 and 9. So 7 plus 9 gives us 16. You could totally like count out the boxes too. Like I'm okay with that. I'm lazy and I want to add it so it's easier. But counting, you're more likely to get it right, especially if your adding skills can be a little suspect sometimes. All right, so how many more houses from 150 to 200? So that's 150 to 200, which is 9. And then 250 to 300, which is here, and that's a 1. And again, I forgot the word more. My goodness. So we have 9 and 1, so there's 8 more. How many houses total? All right, how many houses total? There's that total word. So we're going to count all of these together. I'm just going to add. So there was not 5 here. 4 houses, 7 houses, 9 houses, 4 houses, 1 house. Add all those together, and we get, I'm going to cheat and look at my answer sheet, 25 houses. All right, that's the end of this video. Good luck on tomorrow's quiz, and I'll see you next time.